Kia ora. Thank you very much for being here. Welcome to Lincoln University. Welcome to B-Link Innovation. My name is Wim de Koning, and together with the wonderful B-Link team, Katie and Joe in the back, we are organizing these events. So for the ones that are here for the first time, extremely welcome. The ones that are regulars, welcome back. Before I'm going to introduce Richard, I just want to run through a couple of housekeeping and health and safety issues. But issues. Oh. Okay, fix it. Oh, sorry, that's always the case, right? You call for help and then you fix it yourself. Well, at least happens once every 100 times. Some housekeeping. We do not expect any fire drills at this moment in time. So if we hear the alarm, it is the real deal. We go out through the entrance where you actually came in, and we'll actually gather outside on the grass here. Of course, if the danger is on that side, we have on that side of the workshop, we have also emergency exits. I'm being told that I'm the fastest runner, so follow me. And Katie and Joe will make sure that there is nobody left behind. Toilets are that direction, first door on your left hand side. And as you probably noticed, we are not only offering you a nibble to eat, but also something to drink, including alcoholic beverages. Please let me remind you that the people that are waiting for you at home want you home back safe. So please drink responsibly, and I will remind you of that. For the people that don't know B-Link Innovation is a full business unit of Lincoln University. Basically, what we try to do, we try to connect people. We do that through organizing these type of events. Then we have students, academics, industry, and government actually talking to each other. And sometimes you talk about a topic where you think, that's interesting, and then you go into a more meaningful discussion. And we are sure that at that moment in time, some sort of collaboration will actually start to happen. That collaboration will definitely lead into innovation, and that's where we want to be as Aotearoa New Zealand. We really want to be in that innovative space. Without any further ado, I would like to introduce Richard Lynch from MPI. He grew up on a dairy farm up north, Manawatu. And so he has experienced labor on a farm firsthand. Then he went to Washington State, where he got his PhD in agricultural economics. Sorry,
I came here.
You came here as well. Well, I checked your LinkedIn profile, but I couldn't see the link. The link in the. But
I work for Map Advisory Services based across the road.
Well, there you go. So
Richard, on my age.
Richard is a local. He's a local. We adopted, and he is at the moment the principal advisor for the primary sector workforce policy team, and he will talk us through the workforce here in New Zealand. I will give you the clicker, and I will hand over to you. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I'm actually quite excited to be here. And before I start, I'd just like to say I'd like to see this as a discussion more so than a presentation. So please add your insights and knowledge to what we're talking about this evening, and ask as many questions as we go along. And if you've got better answers than I have, please contribute those as well. So I'm very happy just to take questions as we go. First of all, because I want to see it as a conversation, I'm going to acknowledge a number of people before I start. The work I'm presenting here today is the product of a large group of very dedicated people, including Harina, when she worked with me at MPI. But the policy sector workforce team in Wellington, Dr. Bill K. Blake, who I'm sure many of you may know, and the team at NZIR did a lot of the forecasting work with us, Aquaculture New Zealand, but also the very many people in industry who shared their data and their experiences to help us understand the workforce. I want to thank them as well. And some of the work, or a lot of the work we do is guided by close partnership with both industry and cross-government. So I just want to acknowledge their contribution in all this work. A lot of the data I'm presenting this evening we've drawn out of Statistics New Zealand's what's known as the Integrated Data Infrastructure Database. And I just putting this disclaimer up here. So while we've drawn on that data, they're not official statistics. So what I'd like to do today is talk about what I'm hoping to achieve, but I want to talk about why is it important to analyse and understand the workforce? How do we actually define and measure the workforce? You may think that's an easy question, but it's actually quite difficult. And then talk about who's in the workforce today, what may the workforce look like in a decade's time, and what does it all mean, and what should we all be doing about it? And so basically, it's an opportunity to have a discussion. As I said, it's what actions are important so we have the workforce that we need. And in particular, how do we lift labour productivity? That's a challenge I think we all share. But first of all, I want to talk about the work we've already undertaken. And so first of all, why is it important to understand the workforce? Well, it is a key part of New Zealand economy. It's also, and people are fundamental to the success of the sector. The sector is dynamic and it's changing in relation to a whole series of things, and therefore the workforce is likely to change. So preparing for these changes is pretty important. And finally, as a policy analyst, good evidence is really important for providing high quality advice. So just before I move on, any comments, questions? Okay, so how do we define the food and fibre workforce? We know it's made up of multiple sectors, from variable sector right through, and also what I've defined as cross-sector activities. So there are a number of activities, fertiliser firms, vets, for instance, that work across multiple sectors, and so that's what the bottom one there is referred to. But then, how do we, within each sector, how far down the value chain do we go? And it's a pretty important point, so that because we can all define the sector differently, and it's important to be clear on your definition so that we are making sure we talk about the same thing. So we've defined it in terms of core production, that's the farming, the growing, the fishing, if you like. What we call core processing or first level processing. So dairy processing, meat processing, strongly connected. So that's really the first viable selling product, if you like. Yeah, until you've processed milk, you can't do anything more. But strongly connected is second level processing and further down. And then finally, a group we've called relevant. Now this is a group of industries because we use what's known as the Australian New Zealand Standard Industry Classification classes. And so when we talk about relevant, the example I use is ship and boat building and maintenance. Clearly it's really important for the seafood industry, but it's also important for the maritime industry and the large recreational industry both here and international. And so when we count people, we take a small proportion of those. And what we decided to do is, rather than try and pretend we knew more about the proportion of each of those sectors, we just took a 15%. And then there's the question, so that's how you define the sectors. And but the question is, how do you count people? A lot of people in this room are probably familiar with FTEs, or full-time equivalents. But you could take an annual average. You could take all the people who've worked in a sector over the whole year. So there's a whole series of ways you could potentially count the numbers. We used monthly numbers. So in the lead data, you can look at the number of people, statutory selling, count the number of people who are working in a particular sector on the 15th, middle of the month. And so we've taken those monthly numbers. And so when we put annual numbers, it's an annual average. And that's particularly important because a lot of our sectors, especially in the production side, but also further down the value chain, it's quite seasonal. So that's why we've gone with monthly numbers. It's not a full-time equivalent because part of the challenge we have is we can't get hours worked. And then people want to know about skill levels. Really hard to try and estimate because how do you measure it consistently? And if you think about the size of our sectors, the multitude of roles within the sector is just huge. And so for our forecasting work, we just broke it into highly skilled, skilled and semi-skilled, or managers and leaders, if you like, the semi-autonomous people and those people who are managed at front line, i.e. people who work, say, in a meat processing plant. A lot of those you will see us managed. Because we were kind of interested in understanding will skill level change over time. So, and I've just put a link up there to the report on our website that will go into all that I've just covered very briefly in a lot more detail. And the link will be at the end of my presentation as well. Any questions before I move on to the next section? So what does the workforce look like today? Using the methodology I just outlined, we estimate about 360,000 people working in the food and fibre sectors in New Zealand today. That's 1 in 7.5 jobs out there, or 13% of the workforce working in the food and fibre sectors. It has grown over the last decade from about 330,000. And around half of the workforce is involved, if you like, beyond the farm gate. And 60% of the workforce are skilled or highly skilled. 2/3 of the workforce is male, it's ethnically diverse, and self-employment is extremely high, especially in the production side. And I just put 2 examples up there. And